it doesn't look small. Like that looks like a half a real normal watermelon. Hey everyone, I'm Abby Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. So today's What I Eat in a Day YouTuber review is of Gabbie Hanna. So she is a YouTuber, a singer-songwriter, and an author, and a lot of you guys have asked me to review her diet. So for those of you who have followed Gabbie, you may know she's kind of been on a bit of a fitness journey. She's trying to improve her overall health and get into shape. And this particular video is about a year old, so I know, not ideal. But a lot of you have asked me specifically about this video because she details what she did to lose weight. And it's also like the most recent one that we have. So without ado, let's do this.
Dude, I drunk ate a salad with oil and vinegar the other night.
Not exactly my usual definition of late night drunk eats, but good job, Gabbie.
And I need you to hear me loud and clear. I am not a dietitian. This is what works for me. I'm not telling you this is the right way or this is the only way. This is just what, after years and years of weight loss battles and different trainers and nutritionists and dietitians and a lot of conflicting advice from different people and the internet, take parts of it if you want, take tips, take the advice. As far as the actual foods that I'm eating, take it with a grain of salt. Also, because this is the internet and there is a comment section and everybody's entitled to their opinion, obviously you're free to leave whatever critiques or opinions you have about my diet and my lifestyle below. But I've tried many things for many years and I'm finally so happy, and I can genuinely say I feel and look amazing, and this is what works for my body.
So right off the top, I want to say thank you, Gabbie, for that disclaimer. It's really rare and refreshing that a YouTuber will come out and say, hey, this is kind of what worked for me, but it's not necessarily going to work for you. She's calling out that she's not a registered dietitian or a healthcare provider, but that she's just kind of like gone on this journey, and this is what she's learned has felt good for her body. So thank you, Gabbie, for that.
You and what makes you and your body look and feel incredible. I think that the most frustrating and honestly sometimes heartbreaking thing when it comes to weight loss is all of the conflicting advice and opinions out there. Everybody has an opinion. Some people will tell you to eat only 3 big meals a day. Some people will tell you to eat 6 small meals a day. Some people will say don't eat certain foods. Other people will say that exact same food is essential to your diet. And if you are not one of the beautiful unicorns who is blessed with a mystical genetic makeup, figuring it out can be really difficult. But you have to not give up. You have to not let the missteps or the backslides stop you. You can't just let one bad week make you give up entirely. Give yourself and your body a lot of time to figure out what makes it happy. It took me at least 6 or 7 months to figure it out, you know, on top of 15 years. And it was not easy. I cried a lot. I made a lot of changes a lot of times. And I'm sure I'm going to have to continue to change things as my body changes, my workout plan changes, my cravings change. I hope that's one thing that you do take away from this, even just from this intro, is give yourself time, make as many changes as you need to, and you'll get there. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is...
So totally agree with Gabbie on the fact that the all or nothing mentality is not healthy, and you need to really tune into your body's intuition to find out what feels good to you. But I just kind of wanted to flag the kind of fitspo diet culture language that was going on there, just because I do feel like that could be triggering for some people. And I don't want people to hear that and feel like a little bit of victim blaming, like, oh, if I'm not feeling great or if I'm not at the weight that I want to be, then I'm just not trying hard enough and I've given up. So I just wanted to flag that may be problematic. I also agree with Gabbie how she said that, like, you know, my diet has changed so many times and it's probably gonna have to change again as my cravings change and my needs change and my workout change. Yeah, that's true, and that's why relying on kind of these like meal plans or diet plans that we read about online doesn't make sense, because it's just not intuitive. It's not about listening to your body's true needs in that moment on that day, which ultimately are going to change based on so many different factors. So yeah, try to listen to your body rather than just relying on these external cues.
Stay tuned to the end for my tips on eating to lose weight, how to stay full, how to kick cravings. I always give myself 2 hours before I work out or train. So I eat, I wait 2 hours, and then I train. It gives your body time to burn up the actual food so that when you actually go to work out, your body is not burning body fat instead of the food.
Okay, so let's talk for a hot minute about fasted cardio. So yes, technically, there are some mild benefits associated with fasted cardio, which is kind of what she was just talking about, how like, you know, if you get up in the morning and you don't eat and you do your cardio, then your body will see a slight increase in the fat burning potential. However, we also know that, you know, depending on the length of your workout, it also increases the risk of you burning into your protein stores, aka your muscle as well. So if you're working out at higher intensities or strength training, then fasting before a workout is not really necessarily the best idea. In fact, most authorities in sports nutrition recommend somewhere between 1 to 4 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight as a pre-workout snack for any workouts that are lasting longer than an hour. Also, choosing a pre-workout meal or snack that is lower in fiber, lower in fat, and also sometimes lower in protein depending on your activity may also help you out with your activity, because a lot of these foods tend to sit a little bit heavier and they may cause gastrointestinal distress if you're kind of doing a really kind of high intensity workout. So I love Gabbie's message about getting some fuel in the tank before a workout, but whether or not you need to be so strict and deliberate about it for fat burning potential is pretty much up for debate.
One that, especially when I'm trying to slim down, and this is also my hangover breakfast. It is bacon. Now, this is nitrate-free bacon. I have no idea how important that is, because the person who told me about it was my psychonutritionist, who doesn't know anything, but I've...
Yikes. Okay, so psychonutritionist aside, not going to really comment on that. But the whole kind of natural or nitrate-free bacon thing is kind of a marketing scheme. So nitrates or nitrites are preservatives that are responsible for the color and flavor in cured meats. And research suggests that they may be carcinogenic when consumed in large amounts. So nitrates actually are found naturally in foods like celery, leafy greens, root vegetables, drinking water, baked goods, things like that. And the nitrates in celery are often actually used to make natural nitrate salts for curing meat. Sounds great to go natural, which I guess is why your psychonutritionist was recommending it. However, your body doesn't really differentiate between sources. So at this point, it's really unclear whether or not the risks of consuming nitrate-free bacon are really any different. Listen, I have no problem with bacon in moderation. However, it is a highly processed, high-fat, high-salt product, and synthetic nitrates or not, probably it's not a great everyday option. Also, there is potential that cooking a lot of these ultra-processed foods on high heats, like you would do if you were pan frying, may increase cancer-causing compounds like heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. It's a mouthful.
Started eating nitrate-free bacon since then because it sounded like it was healthier. So I eat that, 2 eggs, half of an avocado, and half of a grapefruit. All right, let's make some breakfast. Combinations of food are super, super important. For example, a lot of people give me crap about eating bacon, but I actually find when I eat bacon consistently that I slim down really quickly, and a lot of trainers actually recommend bacon. What I will not touch is turkey bacon. Any meat or anything that is processed to look like another meat. That just means chemical storm. Nothing that is chemically engineered to look or taste like a thing that it is not. Bacon is full of fat, but fat is good. Your body needs fat, especially if you're eating pretty low fat the rest of the day. When bacon is bad, however, is when you eat it with the wrong food. So for example, if I ate it on toast every morning, that would be a bad food combination. I want my bacon.
Ooh, so much to cover. Okay, let's clear this one up. First of all, in the turkey bacon, yeah, like turkey bacon is a highly processed food. It probably shouldn't have the health halo that like marketing departments have granted it. However, Pork bacon is also a highly processed food. So whichever one you choose, just enjoy it in moderation. Yes, I would say that in a lot of cases, turkey bacon has a little bit more sodium and salt than pork bacon does, but both are really high salt options. So just kind of go easy whichever way you go. As for the food combining, like, haven't we talked about this? Maybe Gabbie can like get a refresh on my video right here, but here's the cold notes. There's very little research to suggest that there's any benefits to kind of these food combinations, whether it's like don't combine fat with protein or whatever the f they are. But the reality is your body is a fucking rock star, and it can multitask to break down and digest a variety of foods at the same time without causing digestive distress and inflammation. Leaving it there.
Bacon to not burn. And it's burnt. I use the same bacon grease and cook my eggs in that. And that's my alarm clock. Those of you who follow me on Snapchat know that this is, in fact, part of my morning routine and afternoon and evening. This is my nightmare. This is my nightmare. This is my morning. This is my evening. This is my life. Half an avocado.
I love her singing. Yeah, I also hate when the fire alarm goes off, but I don't know, maybe for Gabbie that's like a good reminder to like turn down the heat, because cooking those animal fats on a really high heat, like we talked about before, can increase those PAH and HCA carcinogens.
So store the side with the pit in the fridge because somebody told me once that makes it stay fresher, and I blindly believe things that sound like they make sense. I'll probably eat it.
So kind of makes sense, I guess, but like not the best way to preserve your avocado. It's kind of a myth. It may just like prevent that like little pit area from browning, but avocados just brown really fast. So if you really want to keep them fresher longer and prevent them from going brown, put plastic wrap right on the surface, or you can use those kind of cute little reusable avocado containers that I've seen online. I think those work as well pretty good. But yeah, sometimes they just brown.
Tomorrow, half a grapefruit. And I eat it like a weirdo. Okay, so this is
Does eat it like a
meal,
weirdo.
and it's honestly a lot of food. It will fill you. It gives me a lot of energy. Like, I don't get hungry for 5-6 hours, and that's after an intense 2-hour workout. And
so yeah, like that looks like a pretty filling meal. I feel like I would be really satiated. I like that there's a good variety there. It doesn't seem like she's like explicitly kind of restricting any kind of food groups necessarily. So that's great. But there is a lot of fat there. There's a lot of protein. So yes, very filling. Definitely would keep me full for a fairly long time. But I would probably recommend cutting back on the processed meats. Probably wouldn't be necessary. Totally fine as a weekend treat, but I wouldn't recommend like eating bacon every single day as like your go-to breakfast. So maybe having some like whole grains in there, like some whole grain toast, would be a great way to kind of swap in for the processed bacon. And you don't need to worry about the whole food combining thing, the whole grains with the fat, totally shit, we've already covered that. But I just think it would be a better choice as a pre-workout snack to give her that energy that she needs to get through the workout. I'm gonna just like excuse this as the fact that like she has come out and said that this is like her hangover breakfast. Totally fair, girl, I get you. But if we're talking about like pre-workout fuel, I think carbs would probably do her a lot better than like a heavy kind of greasy meal like this, which would probably sit in my gut and make me not want to work out.
I do recommend using a calorie app and a macro app. Calories are not everything, but they are important. No matter what you might hear, this is my school of thought. You can believe whatever you want. My school of thought is energy in, energy out. That's how you burn fat. Now you may watch me eat while I watch YouTube videos. Count your
yes, the whole calories in, calories out, move more, eat less. That's the diet culture promise. But what she's missing out on here is the whole sustainability piece. Can you do this diet for the rest of your life? If no, then it's probably not worth embarking on in the first place. It's just far too restrictive to be a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. The research shows us that diets, weight loss diets, don't work. They don't work because they're not intuitive and they force us to ignore our body's innate wisdom. And in fact, not only do 95% of diets fail and people gain that weight right back, but because of the metabolic changes that are associated with restriction and the hormone changes, oftentimes we actually gain that weight plus more back when we gain that weight. So is it worth it? I would say no.
Count your calories, but do not obsess over them. If you can, track your calories for at least a little while. I didn't in the beginning because where I was mentally, it didn't feel like the healthiest thing to do. And obviously, if you have negative feelings about calories and eating in general, that is something that you need to seek professional help for immediately. I highly, highly urge you to. But once I got that all out of my head, this is probably the single most important part of my weight loss journey. First of all, I learned that I wasn't eating even close to the amount of food that I should have been eating. But I didn't know that because I wasn't counting. When I started eating a lot more, I started losing a lot more. Get this, guys, your body needs food to live. If you aren't eating enough, your body is going to cling onto the weight. Your cortisol levels are going to go up. On that note, you have to be honest with yourself. When you really hold yourself accountable and you truly start entering in everything that you're eating, you're less likely to eat something that is bad for you.
Okay, so one thing that really surprised me is that Gabbie seems to believe that she was able to kind of like turn off those disorderly thoughts and get over it and start to count calories healthfully again, which is honestly not really a thing that I'm aware of that, you know, chronic dieters are capable of. In fact, just based on some of the language that I'm hearing Gabbie use, I don't think that she's kind of fully over her disorderly tendencies at all. I also think it's incredibly backwards to assume that we need some kind of like tracker or app to tell us to eat enough food. Our body is incredibly smart, and if we're listening, it will guide us to eat the right amount of food. This is like diet culture talking at the moment. This is somebody who's talking about her experience not being able to listen to her body, ultimately as a result of being so engrossed in diet culture for so long. It's very hard to turn that off, and it's not something that's just going to happen, you know, on the fly. But you would be amazed how incredibly stable people's weights are when they are eating intuitively. Your body is actually able to make small adjustments for days that you know you maybe eat a little bit more or eat a little bit less. So we do not, I repeat, we do not need an app to tell us what to eat. Not for a short amount of time, not ever. So one thing I do agree with Gabbie on is that your body needs food to live. And a lot of the times people find that when they stop restricting, their body goes and finds the healthiest, happiest weight that it's meant to be. It just kind of regulates itself and its metabolism resets. So that's not necessarily untrue. You know, like a lot of the times people find that when they actually start eating more or more regularly, they actually kind of lose weight just because that's the weight that their body wants to be. However, you can gain all of this knowledge from you, from your unique body. You don't need an app to tell you any of this.
Or something that you don't need, like unhealthy snacks or candy or chips. But you do have to be honest with yourself, because if you eat those things and you don't track your calories and you can't figure out why you're not losing weight, that is the reason why. But the most important thing to remember when talking about calories, please read my lips, is they are very important, but they are not everything. There are some healthy foods that have way more calories than unhealthy foods, but it's much better to put that thing in your mouth with more calories. The best way I've ever heard this explained to me, imagine having a 100-calorie pack of banana muffins and an actual banana. The 100-calorie pack of muffins has, you guessed it, 100 calories. The banana has 110 calories. So a lot of people, if they get too obsessed with the idea of counting calories, would go for the 100-calorie pack of muffins. However, the muffins are full of processed food and garbage, and the banana is a whole food packed with nutrients that is very good for your body.
Okay, so I just want to flag that we don't necessarily need to be calling foods like garbage or junk or toxic or whatever. Food is food, and let's just kind of like leave it at that. But one thing for sure is that it's not just about macro and micronutrients. it's also about satiety here. And some foods that are higher in protein and fiber and fat may be higher in calories than other options, but they're also going to keep you satisfied longer, so you're less likely to overeat later on in the day. It's also about emotional satisfaction. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of moving parts here when it comes to how to eat, but bottom line, I think we can all agree at this point, calorie counting.
I don't know, I'll explain it later. Here are my general rules. I only eat 3 times a day as often as I can. This is up for debate. This is what my trainer recommended to me, and I was very, very resistant to it, mainly because I was afraid that I was going to be hungry all day, and because I know I have an emotional attachment to eating. So someone telling me I have to eat half as many times as I want to be eating is really, really hard. However, when I started following this rule, that's when the weight really started coming off. I was spiking my insulin half the amount of times I normally was through the day, science, Google it, and I was forcing myself to eat more calories so that I wouldn't get hungry again. Lots of good calories, less times in the day. For me, that was the trick. I also wait 5 or more hours in between each meal before I eat again, because that's how long it takes for your body to actually use up the food and then get into the burn zone. Science, Google it. Again, I'm not a dietitian. This is what my trainer, who has transformed so many people's lives and bodies, told me to do, and when I started following it, that's when I started losing the weight.
Okay, so there's 2 things here that Gabbie points out. One is that she only eats 3 times a day, and 2 is that she spaces those meals out by 5 hours each time. The media has really flip-flopped back and forth between recommending eating 3 meals a day or like 1 big meal a day, and then eating these small, like kind of frequent meals throughout the day. And whether or not one is better than the other, I mean, we don't really know. The science is not being conclusive, probably because it's really highly an individual thing based on each of our metabolism. The science that Gabbie is talking about, science Google it, is the fact that insulin gets released when we consume any foods that contain carbohydrate, and insulin is actually a growth hormone. In fact, when people who have diabetes are instructed to take insulin injections as part of their medication to help manage their blood sugars, it sometimes can cause weight gain. And this is simply because insulin helps you absorb and store sugar. As for this 5-hour rule, this is probably based on the suggestion that your liver, around the 5-hour mark, starts to produce its own sugar and release it into blood when we haven't had any food. And this is why we actually usually suggest that people try to have something to eat every 4 to 5 hours, because that's actually when we start to see our blood sugars rise. However, it's not really accurate to suggest that your body will kind of go into fat burning mode at the 5-hour mark. Most of us have kind of stored up glucose stores, we call it glycogen, that our body uses and mobilizes in times of fasting. And it would much rather pull from those and have that glucose ready than to start to burn through muscle or fat, which is just less efficient as fuel. To actually get to that stage where you're starting to burn fat because your glycogen stores are depleted would probably take you between 24 hours and 2 days of not consuming any carbohydrates. So when it comes down to this debate about how much to eat and when to eat, it really is an individual thing. What we need to do is learn how to tune into our body and eat when we're hungry and stop when we're full. That is a much better predictor of weight regulation than any of these arbitrary rules.
Time to eat again. I had a really good workout, but when I get home, I'm just hungry and ready to eat. And my favorite thing to do is eat some type of fruit while I'm waiting for everything else to heat up, because it's like candy to me at this point, like the same with the grapefruit. This is my favorite. When I'm done working out, a half of a personal watermelon. It's so juicy. I'm salivating thinking about it. It's so sweet. It makes my mouth feel all hydrated. It just explodes. I love watermelon so much. It's my favorite fruit. And it just hydrates you and replenishes you from your workouts. Plan your meals and prep.
Okay, so I love watermelon and I agree, so hydrating, so sweet, so delicious. Also, I don't know what a personal watermelon is. I've never heard that term before, but okay. But yeah, if she's really interested in hydration post-workout, water is also a great choice. Very important, and more hydrating than really any kind of food, pure H2O. And I would really love to see her incorporate, you know, some protein after the workout. In fact, I would love to actually see these meals swapped even, so that she was having more carbohydrates, more energizing carbs before the workout, and then that protein to replenish and refuel those muscles. So that would be my recommendation. It's also like a lot of watermelon. And so yeah, just a little bit more balance would be ideal.
Plan your meals and prep. I literally schedule my day around eating. I make sure I'm awake in time to eat 2 hours before I train. I make sure I can eat pretty much right after I train. If I'm going out for the night, I make sure I have a big dinner first. I always have cooked food in my fridge ready to go, like chicken, boiled eggs that I can just grab and eat. Always have a ton of fresh fruit laying around. Love melon, love pears, love peaches. If you have the things you're supposed to be eating readily available, you are more likely to eat the things that you're supposed to be eating.
Okay, so agree that meal prep and planning is so key. I'm all about being prepared, but planning your day around eating and what to eat sounds disorderly to me and really problematic. So yeah, planning and prepping is healthy and great. I mean, nobody wants to be frantically trying to put together a meal at 6 p.m., but obsessing over it and planning your entire day around food sounds disorderly, not healthy.
Cheesy. I didn't have it in my house, so I couldn't eat it. If you have junk food, throw it away. It will save your life. I finished my half.
That sounds so extreme. And I know that Gabbie has said that she has overcome her kind of disorderly tendencies, but that sounds disorderly to me. People who have a healthy relationship with food don't need to purge their home of sugar and get rid of any kind of sugar that surrounds them. That's just not realistic, because people who have a healthy relationship with food don't obsess and pine over it. I can honestly say that I have a freezer full of cookies and ice cream and a pantry stuffed with chocolate, and I rarely think about it.
I would eat 6 for lunch, but like I said, I'm not feeling crazy hungry. I'm gonna stick with 4 ounces, which is about that much. Frozen vegetables. This is a lifesaver for me. You just pop it in the microwave. Frozen vegetables, fun fact, I've learned are actually apparently, feel free to debate me on it, obviously I'm not a scientist, but are apparently better for you than fresh vegetables, because fresh vegetables, when they're sitting out, the nutrients are constantly dying as they're sitting on the shelf, whereas with frozen vegetables, they usually flash freeze them pretty much as soon as they're picked. So all the nutrients are frozen, and then when you cook them, they're apparently better for you. I don't know, but for me, they're more convenient, easier to cook. Find help.
Yeah, I'm not going to debate you on that, Gabbie, because I agree. I think that frozen vegetables are like highly underrated. But the way that our food system works today is that a lot of our food, at least you know where I live here in Canada, is transported very long distances, and the nutrients are degrading over time in transportation. Whereas, like you said, those frozen vegetables, they're flash frozen, the nutrients are locked in, and they're just more convenient, and in a lot of cases, depending on the season, can also be cheaper as well. So yeah, I love frozen vegetables. I've got a freezer packed with frozen vegetables and fruit and ice cream. Yeah. Balance, folks. All in moderation.
Healthy alternatives. Replace your soda with a bubbly fizzy water. Try switching out your regular peanut butter with a dehydrated peanut butter powder. Swap out candy or bars with fresh fruit. On that note, try to cut out as much unnatural processed carbs and sugar as humanly possible. Believe me on this, again, theme of the video, it takes time, but your taste buds will change.
Okay, so like, it looks like a pretty simple, basic, relatively balanced meal. I mean, she said that she had a sweet potato, but it's not shown, so I guess she ate the sweet potato at some point, and half of a personal watermelon. So yeah, she's got some kind of slow digesting carbs. She's got some vegetables, quite a lot of good vegetables there, green beans. She's got 4 ounces of chicken breast that she has measured out. Don't love that, but still, I'm just happy to see that it's like a little bit more balanced, and it's a lower fat meal than what she had at breakfast. So that really does point to the fact why it's really important that we're not just kind of like looking at each meal or snack in isolation, because balanced out over time, this lower fat meal is going to balance out the higher fat meal that she had earlier on in the day. So yeah, I'm happy. It's simple. It's kind of very easy to assemble and looks accessible in terms of how to put it together. So that's great. As for Gabbie's suggestion on kind of cutting back on soda, totally love that. I love sparkling water myself, and it is really a great way to kind of help retrain your taste buds to appreciate just naturally hydrating foods that do not have all this added sugar in them.
Green beans again, dude, you can have so much fun with your food. My plates are boring as fuck because I'm boring as fuck. And also I'm lazy. But I like these things. These are the things that taste good to me. But look up recipes. I know you can make buffalo wings out of cauliflower. And a lot of people make cauliflower crust pizza, make fun chip dip out of things. But I'm way too lazy. I don't have the time for that. I love putting garlic salt on vegetables. It makes them taste so much yummier. Now tracking what you eat isn't.
So at least like Gabbie's honest with herself. Yeah, like I'm happy that from what I see, her meal, at least her dinner meal here, looks pretty balanced. I'm seeing, you know, carbs, I'm seeing lots of vegetables, I'm seeing some kind of lean protein. So that's great. Having said that, it is pretty repetitive, and I feel like for people who enjoy variety and kind of trying different recipes and unique flavors, this might be really boring and not sustainable and feel super restrictive. But the most important thing is, like, it seems to be satisfying to Gabbie, and like she said, she's just like too busy, you know, not really interested in switching things up and making elaborate recipes, and that is totally fair. If it feels satisfying to Gabbie, then that's what's important.
You're gonna be at a birthday party and want the cake, and sometimes you should have the cake. The thing that really helped me was the realization that this part isn't forever. In the beginning, you do have to be a lot stricter with yourself. If your friends are going out drinking 2 times a week, you can't. I mean, you can, but it's gonna take you a lot longer to lose the weight. If you really, really love sweets and junk food, you have to cut it out. You'll have to skip the pizza and the dessert for a little while, but not forever. There were so many times in the middle of this journey, I almost gave up forever because I kept thinking, I can't do this for the rest of my life. Cutting out things that I want and not enjoying going out with my friends. And then I realized this is the hard part. Once I change my body and turn it into a machine that knows how to handle food and burn fat, your body becomes a lot more forgiving and it becomes maintenance. Get your body where you...
Ugh, I don't like that kind of talk. Okay, so basically what I have to say about this is that, yeah, like being more intense and strict with your diet is going to lead to faster weight loss, but it also increases the risk of relapse and weight cycling, which evidence suggests is actually more detrimental to your health. A lot more can be said for the idea of actually learning how to listen to your body and let it find its healthiest, happiest weight. So there is no such thing as just one narrow definition of what healthy food is. Okay, so let's talk about Gabbie's nutrition for the day. So according to my calculations, Gabbie is eating about 1,369 calories, with 24% of her calories coming from protein, 41% from carbs, and 35% from fat. Okay, so Gabbie is definitely consuming fewer calories than I think anyone else that we've reviewed here, but considering that this is a weight loss diet video, it makes sense. I guess this was meant to be kind of like a caloric deficit for her. As for balance, I would say that this is like pretty well balanced. I mean, her carb percentage is a little bit lower than what's recommended, and her fat's a little bit higher, but totally what's within reason, in my opinion, especially based on what kind of is in vogue right now, and it seems like it's working for her and her body. As for micronutrients, I would say it's unlikely that she's really missing out on anything major because she's getting a lot of fruits and vegetables, and with the exception of dairy, I think basically all of the food groups are represented, so that's great. So here is what I like about Gabbie's diet. Number one, nothing is necessarily cut out. She doesn't explicitly talk about cutting out specific foods or food groups, even though she is kind of like buying into the food combining thing, which is totally BS. And I don't know if she eats dairy, but again, like not a huge deal. There are other sources of calcium and vitamin D that you can get that. So I appreciate that. Number two, she focuses a lot on water and hydration. So this is great. She talks a lot about getting her hydration in. She makes it a priority. So I definitely think that's amazing. Number three, I would say her meals are very accessible and easy. Basically everything I saw was more assembly style. It didn't require any kind of outrageous skill in the kitchen. All of the ingredients were easy to find, easy to access, and really ultimately easy to put together. Yeah, she could probably, do with a little bit more variety and creativity in her life, but if this works for her, then that's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about what I don't love about Gabbie's diet. First of all, it is based on some faulty science. So I really appreciate that Gabbie has come out and said, hey, I'm not a nutrition expert, I'm not a dietitian, this is just what works for me and feels good to my body. Awesome. However, I don't really agree, and the science doesn't agree with everything that Gabbie has come out and said, and I think that she's giving some kind of misinformation tidbits that may be misleading for people. So at the end of January, Gabbie actually posted a diet update where she talked about how over Thanksgiving and the holidays, she had put on some weight and then tried to go on another fitness journey to transform her body again in just a month. Now, this isn't to shame Gabbie here. I mean, in fact, this is what I would expect from a weight loss diet like this. People relapse. People don't maintain that weight loss. It's just not sustainable. And it's just not realistic to transform your body in a month. It really just goes to show that there are so many factors that impact our weight, and I'd much rather see us focus on health and well-being rather than the number on the scale. And finally, I don't like her diet culture rhetoric. I really struggle when I hear people talk about how they're free from disordered eating, and yet they talk about food in such dichotomous and moral terms. Saying things like, get rid of the junk in your life and your life will change, seems overwhelmingly extreme and obsessive and not a healthy way to think about or talk about food. Okay, so bottom line, I think Gabbie gave us a lot of suggestions here that may be helpful and able to be generalized to a lot of people. However, what I learned in this video is that if this is what it takes to lose weight and not even to keep it off, as her update has suggested to us, I don't see how it's worth the sacrifice. Food should not be a burden, eating should not be a punishment, and your body should not need to be so viciously manipulated like this. These are lessons that I personally am trying to kind of learn and remember every single day. So I hope that you guys will all join me on this journey as well. So guys, as we close off, I just want to remind you that yes, I am passionate here about dismantling diet culture, but what I'm not interested in is dismantling people's individual character. Yeah, I want to make sure that if I see misinformation on the internet, I'm gonna call it out. And I'm gonna do it my way with science and sass. That's what I always say. But of course, I want to be sensitive that these are people's lives. And so when you're leaving comments below, I ask that you do so with empathy and respect and kindness, because we're all just trying to move forward in a positive light on this kind of food and eating journey. And I get it, it's not easy. I was there too, I was struggling. And so I'm really just trying to be cognizant of that and keeping the comment section respectful. On that note, please leave me a comment below if there's a diet you want reviewed, something that you want clarified, if there's something you want fact-checked. I want to know about it. I read every single comment. Don't forget to check out the playlist right here for other What I Eat in a Day reviews. Subscribe to the channel, please share it with your friends, and I will see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!